You're listening to the Time to Level Up podcast. I'm your host, business life coach Andrea Liebross. I help women in business commit to their own growth personally and professionally. Each week, I'll bring you strategies to help you think clearly, gain confidence, make your time productive, turn every obstacle into an opportunity, and finally overcome the overwhelm so that you can make money and manage life. Let's create a plan so you have a profitable business, successful career, and best of all, live with unapologetic ambition. Are you ready to drop the drama and figure out the how in order to reach your goals? You're in the right place. It's time to level up. Let's do this. Hey, Time to Level Up listeners, welcome back to the podcast. Today, I am sharing with you a conversation that I had with my client, who happens to also be a life coach, Binie Klein. Now, Binie is 25 years old. Yes, I did say 25. And she decided to engage in coaching so that she could make her life and business better. And I think we definitely accomplished that. What we also accomplished, though, along the way was putting tools in her toolbox so that she could tackle and face any challenge that came her way. And during our 6 months, there were many challenges, but she learned how to manage her mind, change some of her thinking, so that she could walk away from any one of these situations saying, I got this. So sit back, buckle up, and listen in to my conversation with Binie. Hey, Time to Level Up listeners, welcome back to the podcast. I am happy today to share a client success story. I have the opportunity to talk to my client, Binie. And I'm just going to let her introduce herself. But as you're listening, I bet you can see a lot of yourself in her. So I'm excited for her to share her story with you. Okay, go for it. Tell us who you are.
Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit just about myself. So my name is Binie Klein, and I'm a life coach. I live in Miami, Florida, grew up in Miami, was raised here. I am a wife and a mother of one, soon to be a mother of two. My baby is 2 now. And let me think about the top things to say about myself. What brought me to life coaching, I'll share that a little bit, is I grew up with my parents having an organization for children with special needs that I always wanted to serve and help other people. And then eventually when I found life coaching, I thought this was the best way to help people would be to help people reach their goals, which is what you did for me. So I'm grateful to be here.
Look at that. Look at that. Comes full circle, right? What were you doing before you decided to become a life coach?
Before I decided to become a life coach, so first I got my bachelor's in psychology because I was so focused on helping people. I'm like, oh, that's the typical way you help someone. You become a therapist or a psychologist. But what I realized through getting certified, getting my bachelor's, I realized that it wasn't so much for me. I found it to be very past focused, which for me was very draining. So I kind of left that on the side. I'm like, I don't want to jump into a master's and spend the time and energy when that's not necessarily where I see myself. So I got involved in communications and recruiting and some other things. And I was living in New York at the time. That's where I met my husband. We got married. And then when we moved back to Miami, I kept thinking about what was going to be that thing for me. What was going to be that thing that I loved, that I enjoyed, that I felt lit up about, that I felt really helped me make a difference in the world. I started dabbling in real estate because I always loved people. So I'm like, maybe I'll do this thing or that thing that will help me, connect with people. But I was like, that's not the thing. And then I was like, what will really help people and change their lives, right? Of course, buying a house or helping someone with one thing or another does help. But when I found life coaching, the light bulb went off and I just never looked back.
Look at that. All right. Will you share with everybody, how old are you?
I'm 25.
Okay. So she's 25. I want you all to hear that. Look at that.
Yes.
Which is interesting. I think it's interesting that you recognized so quickly what wasn't going to work in terms of career, and was able to process through options and then choose. A lot of people, that takes like 10 years to figure that out. So kudos to you. It didn't take too long.
Yeah. Because I think sometimes we get like blinded, like someone offers us a job and that's a little bit more money than what we're doing now, or we're more comfortable where we are, right? And we don't want to take that leap. And for me, I was always like, I want that clarity. I want to know. And so much comes from that clarity. I always say that clarity is so underrated. And I feel so to have become a coach at this age. Like when I was getting certified, there were people so much older than myself, which I don't think is an issue. And I think it's an amazing thing. If you've been doing something for 10 years and you have the courage to say like, wait, I actually want to be doing something different. Yet I'm so grateful that I like put that positive pressure on myself to really figure that out and then start building that business at the age that I did.
Yeah. Positive pressure. I think that's a good way to kind of think about it. I like that. So, okay. So we've been working together for about 6 months, and where do you, like, thinking back now, where were you 6 months ago? What was happening or not happening? And what made you kind of reach out? What do you think? It's always good in it's like interesting in retrospect to think about this too.
Yeah, it is interesting. So at that point, about 6 months ago, I was already certified. I was already building my coaching business. I think what it was a mix of a couple of things. And that's what really drew me to Andrea, for our listeners. One is the business part, right? So of course, I was at one point in my business and I had these dreams and these goals of growing my business, right? Increasing the clients that I was working with. But more so even than that, business-wise, it was like feeling good in my business. Like I'm the person who's always trying to do lots of things, which you know about me. And so I was trying to figure out like, how do I do less or even just feel satisfied by what I'm doing instead of like double checking, like, am I doing enough and putting lots of pressure on myself? So that was what it was business-wise. Like, yes, growing my business, but like feeling good about it and not feeling like I always had to do more. Am I doing enough? Questioning and doubting myself. So that was business wise. And then family wise, like home wise, I just wanted some more tools and support when it came to balancing certain family issues, certain sensitive things that were going on in my extended family. At home, I had a young daughter at home, and I was trying to figure out how to be the best mother while still growing my business at the same time and still keeping those connections with friends and family and all of that.
So, all right. So 2 things I just thought about I noted when you were talking is, one, feeling good in what you're doing is so key because it trickles down into all aspects of your life, right? So if you're feeling good about what you're doing on a daily 9 to 5, so let's say basis, there's a trickle down effect. And if you're not feeling great, or you think there's potential to feel better, it doesn't always have to quote unquote, fixing that doesn't always have to do with doing more, right? It's not about doing more. And I think our brains think we should be changing up our actions and adding things in, right? What can I add in?
Yeah.
But, right?
Yeah, that was definitely me. And I found, right, it's like the total opposite. Like now where my business is growing quicker, I'm actually doing less and only doing the things when it feels good. So we always, right, and I'll tell this to my clients as well, is we try to feel better by doing more action, but a lot of times it doesn't help, or sometimes even makes us feel worse, like more stress. So what we actually need to do is figure out like why we aren't feeling good, right? Like what are we thinking about ourselves? And then create an action plan based on that. So that's what you help me with in my way. And that's really obviously what I help other people with as well.
Yeah, that's great. So I remember we had a conversation probably a month in. You're like, I'm doing all the things. I don't know if this is working. I'm just stressed. Like you are building up. You were thinking, I need to do more. I need to do more. I need to do more. Right. And it got to a point where it was super overwhelming. And then once that kind of, you flip the switch and realize it's not about always doing more, it made a huge difference. And I think at that point in our coaching, I remember you started talking about your marriage and your husband and how this was impacting there was a bigger picture in this.
Yeah, totally. I think that we don't often think about how one thing really does affect the other. And we come to coaching, or we're so focused on growing in one area of our life, but the hidden benefit of that is that it affects all the other areas. So what I definitely gained was like trying to do all of the things. I wasn't fully present, right? I had done some work on myself before, but I was always like, what more can I do? What more can I do? What more can I do? And then creating the belief of like, this is enough. What I'm doing is enough. Like I'm putting value out into the world. Like it's going to come back to me, helped in so many areas, and particularly my marriage for sure. So I started realizing that I was having so many expectations on my husband to be a certain way and do certain things when really, like, yes, we can communicate our expectations, but we can't really expect or put pressure on people to be different. Like they are who they are. And the only things that we can control is how we think about them, how we feel about them, and then the actions that we take. So when I started to take all that responsibility back that I was putting on him, at first it was like I wanted to choke. And then like, I'm like, oh my God, wait, this is actually all in my power. So you helped me realize that. And then from that place of taking the responsibility back, like what should or can I ask him for, like hope for, and then how do I manage my expectations and feel good? And our relationship has changed so much and improved so much in the past couple of months. And that was definitely a hidden benefit of coaching. That wasn't like the reason that brought me here.
Yeah. And I find that happens all the time. Like I would bet 99.9% of my clients, if we reflect on their coaching experience, they will always bring in something that they had no idea was even as, I don't want to say a problem, but so maybe some like lingering thoughts, but once they address them, the change that they saw in those other areas is super impactful. And here's something else that I want listeners to recognize too, is that when we started working together, nothing was wrong. Nothing was broken. There was no traumatic event. There was no huge like problem, so to speak. And I think sometimes we think, well, there has to be that in order to have permission to work on ourselves or our business or our career. Like something has to have happened. That's not really true, is it? And I remember you and I did have this permission conversation, actually, now that I think about it.
And it is so powerful. I see that a lot as well in my work, where people will often come to coaching when the worst has happened. But like, what if we reach out earlier? What if like we all could, and we do, we all could use that support to get to that next level? Like, why wouldn't we want to improve in our work, in our relationships? Like we all have, as human beings, we're never satisfied. So we all have that next level that we want to reach. So why wouldn't you want to get there quicker and with support? And that's really what I gave myself. And I think like the biggest thing that came from our coaching relationship and that we all get from coaching is just the reminder or the awareness originally that everything is in our control. And when we focus on what's not in our control, right, that's when we're like, feeling really disempowered. So many times we want to just stay stuck and vent and vent, and venting is helpful, but like we focus all about what, our partner didn't do or what our employee or our employer didn't do. Okay, so we vent, and then we're still stuck. But being able to say like, oh wait, okay, they're doing that, but then how do I want to think and feel and act about it changes everything. So even once I actually knew that, because I'm a coach as well, like just having someone there, like picking your thoughts apart and showing you your brain is like so life-changing.
It is. And I think what gets in our way of opening ourselves up to that possibility, like what gets in our way of feeling better or what gets in our way of improving our relationships, 9 times out of 10, or I would say 10 times out of 10, it's ourselves, right? Like we get in our own way. And I think that was something that you recognized, like you were getting in your own way.
Yeah. With like, and I know you always say this, like we have our rule book, right, of how things have to go. Like I had all, without me even realizing, like, and my husband had to do this and the family had to look like this. And you're like, wait, what if it can look different? And I'm like, oh my God, it could look different. And I was like, wait, we could do all these different things. And then I was like, oh, you just need someone to like give you that permission and like show you what you're thinking. And you're like, wait, why do I even believe that?
Yeah.
So good.
And then things can change, but you have to get to that point to recognize that it could be different.
Right. You have to have that help and support in front of you, because you're not going to realize that on your own often. Even when you know those tools, that's the benefit of like having that ongoing support.
Yes. Yes. All right. So what do you think? What was like if someone sometimes, and you probably have this too in your consults, actually, I know you do. People say, well, what am I going to get out of this coaching? Like, what are some of the results, or what are actually, I had someone actually once ask me, what are the deliverables of coaching? What would you say? Like, if you had to sum up 3 things that you thought were results or tangible results of coaching.
For myself.
Yeah, for you. Yes.
So for myself, I would say one huge tangible result was being able to manage my emotions around certain family situations that were going on. So I was not feeling my feelings about certain difficult situations because I was worried about how it would impact my business or how it would impact my day or getting stuck in those. So something that was really helpful was having this as a place to be able to talk about how I was feeling and for you to give me other perspective. And then now I'm able to do both. I'm able to feel the feelings and not allow it to take away, to detract from other areas of my life. So that was something that was super new for me. I would always hide from my emotions before because I didn't want to get stuck in them or because it felt uncomfortable. So that was a huge result for me. Number one, I would say.
All right. You know what I'm going to bring up here is that Binie lives right near the apartment or condo building that collapsed in Florida a couple months ago. And that was huge, right? And you were feeling, rightly so, I don't even know what the right word is, completely distraught over that, understandably. But I also remember that you at that point had gotten to a place where you were just allowing yourself to feel that way.
Yeah.
And right? Yeah.
That was really new for me. Like I just allowed myself, like that month looked different and I didn't make it mean anything about me and it didn't take away from anything, right? We decide or we create those stories going back to that like it must mean that if we're feeling our feelings, then we're not going to reach our goals or we're going to neglect our children or whatever it is. So that was huge for me. And now I'm already applying that to so many other areas. I've just had an emotional weekend with a family member. My 13-year-old brother who has autism had a bar mitzvah. And so that was also new for me, like just being able to feel emotional about it and celebrate and be present and then move on, and then the next week go back to work and I didn't make it a problem. I didn't resist. So that was huge and has already been affecting so many things.
Yeah. You didn't make it feeling how you feel was not a problem. It was okay to feel whatever, joy, sadness, whatever it was. And a lot of people, that's hard. That's super hard. So, okay. What's another, since I said 3, what would be another result? We have to circle back. What would be another result?
Another result that definitely came from coaching was just like, I feel like I became like friends with my brain. I know, like I have so much awareness and like, when I used to just like get overwhelmed and just get like confused, like, why am I feeling overwhelmed? Why am I feeling pressured? Like I can just go right in and be like, okay, how am I feeling right now? Check in. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling pressure. Where is that coming from? Okay. So I'm having these thoughts. I'm creating these stories about my business. And then, okay, how do I process through that? And then be able to take the actions I want in my business. So what I thought would be more of our goals in coaching would have been like, okay, this is what you'll do to get these clients, even though I knew that it came from your thoughts, but you helped me just have such an awareness into my brain where now I'm like, just like I can cut right to the chase, like figure out what's going on, solve for it, and just keep going. So that is super life-changing. And then even in my relationship, like that ties into relationship. Like if I'm feeling annoyed, like at my husband or at somebody, I'm like, why am I feeling annoyed? Okay, I'm having this thought that he doesn't care about what I'm saying. Okay, is that true? No, actually, he had a hard day. And right now he was actually distracted. Like right away, I can take responsibility and figure out why I'm feeling a certain way to then be able to create a new reality, to not be as annoyed, to be more connected, to grow my business, to be more relaxed, whatever it is that I want. So yeah, it's amazing.
So really what you're doing is like I always say, what are your 3 most valuable resources? Your brain power, money, and time. And you're using your brain power to, save you time is kind of maybe not the best use of words, but you're quickly being able to identify where the problem is. And that is kind of saving time and energy. Think about all the energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I would say the third was in the beginning of our time together is when I found that I was pregnant, and I was having so much drama about that. Like, even though it was something that I felt okay with, then when I actually realized that I was pregnant, I started having all the thoughts like, I know I'm going to make this work, but how? Like, how am I going to balance my business? Like, what if I'm not feeling okay? Like, all of that. And you helped me create a plan so early on, like way before I announced it. I knew exactly how to create the results that I wanted, what my maternity leave would look like, how I wanted to tell clients about it. And I had this belief that it wasn't going to be a problem. And then in reality, now it's not. Like, my business is growing, it's all solved, it's all taken care of. So I didn't even realize when I came to coaching that would be something that I needed. And that's been priceless. Just being able to have that sanity and that peace of mind and that confidence that it will all be okay.
How could this be okay? Being pregnant and having how am I going to tell my client? They're going to be upset. I remember you going through like, well, what if they say this? Do you remember that whole conversation about how you were going to be completely available 100% during your maternity leave? And
yes,
remember that?
I said, oh yeah, I'll do Voxer. Like, I won't do sessions, but I'll like offer them support where they can check in. And then I was like, okay, where is this coming from? Like, where am I not believing? And then I went on a vacation and saw that that didn't work. So having that support so early on and planning ahead was so helpful.
Yeah. And something else that happened during our time together that you couldn't have planned for is that your husband got a new job.
Yeah.
Which is great. But then that changed kind of the daily schedule and who was taking your daughter and all that. Remember, and you're like, how is this all going to work? I don't know. But right.
Yeah.
Yep. But
so when it came to my husband getting a new job, like, that was when my coaching tools were more useful than ever. Like, where I was just able to be like, okay, like, I really believe this was best for us and our family. I'm like, how do I just make this work? Like, I can make this work. And then from that place, I was able to be like, well, our schedule's changing. That's not a problem. He's going to do this. I'm going to do that. Days will be full. It's okay. This is how I want to be present. Like, I was able to just problem solve. And even now when I get overwhelmed in little moments, I'm like, okay, this is why. Like, I'm able to give myself that grace and like just solve the pieces so much quicker. So yes, that was something else.
That was something else. And then you went to this whole, we're going to buy a house. We're not going to buy a house. We're like, so what I like coming to my mind, and I used this analogy yesterday with a client. It's like, we're playing as humans, we're constantly in a game of dodgeball where we get things, events, experiences, people thrown at us, right? Like they're trying, being like, bam, bam, bam. And being able to have the tools and kind of the thinking you need to continually not get to be able to still remain standing and say, I've got this, even though this happened, I got it. Even though, this unexpected ball was thrown at me, I got it. That's like priceless, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that just came up for me when you said that was also something that we spoke a lot about, and something that comes up a lot in coaching. And now I share with my clients is like is about making decisions. Like, so often I felt like I was in a yo-yo, and I bring that to a session, like what you said about the house, like, we're buying a house, but we're not. So how do I plan for next year? Like, I'm not 100% sure. And you were like, you're in this house until you're not in this house. Like, are you here? Like, what's your plan? Like, just decide. And another time that I remember that was when I was thinking to go to New York for a family event. I was like, I don't know. It makes sense not to go. These are the reasons to go. And you were just like, let's make a decision. Make your reasons of why you're going to go, why you're not going to go. And then, like you said, like, which one do you love your reasons for more? And I'm like, oh my God. And then in 5 minutes, I wrote out the reasons, and I'm like, I'm going. Even though that was only one reason on that list and 5 reasons on the other list, like, you just gave me so much support and guidance when it comes to making decisions, and like to not be in that yo-yo. Like, you're in this house until you're not. You have one kid until you don't. Like, yes, plan ahead, but like when our brains are open with those decisions, and that was so helpful. Like, whenever my husband and even my friends would be like, you're not overwhelmed when you're thinking of buying a house. I'm like, no, we're not buying a house until the house is here, and then we're buying one. Right. So that is like such a hidden benefit, because when we're in that decision confusion.
Yeah. And the what ifs, what if this? What if that? I remember you're like, should we re-enroll in daycare or should we not? because what if we don't live here? And I was like, well, right now you live here. So there you go.
Exactly. And now I'm like so good with that. Like, I'm like, yeah, we're here until we're not, this until we're not. And like it comes up with everybody. So that was really helpful. And it's something that I'm using in my own life and then passing on to my clients as well.
Oh, great. I love it. Okay. So what are some phrases or thoughts? Because I have some of my own that I've gotten from my own coach that keep like that you think about, because you said before we started recording, Binie said, last night as I was lying in bed, I thought of all these things that you say that I say back to myself. So share, tell me.
So one was this, like, right, about like, like how can you just decide what it is, like where you're at now, what are you doing, and just be decided about that. So that was definitely one. Another one that I thought of was when it comes to just having a hard time, let's say with a family member, with my husband, or with somebody, you always rephrase it instead of like, he's giving you a hard time, he's having a hard time, which was so life-changing for me. I'm like, what? Like I came with like my whole agenda and my thoughts about it, but like being able to give that other person compassion and realize like, wait, they're not trying to cause all these feelings or thoughts for you. They're actually really having a hard time. Like always like spun it differently and like changed the conversation.
I love that one. I love that one. That they're having a hard time. It's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
So if someone was out there considering coaching, what would you tell them?
Do it, obviously. I would say this is really what I would say. I would say is that people, if you haven't worked with a coach, or you're not a coach yourself, or like you're not intimately connected with coaching. And even then sometimes, right, we can have a bad experience or people don't know, but I always say like, give it a chance. Like there's a chance that you could change your life. If you really are ready for that next level of growth, why wouldn't you reach out for a free discovery call? Why wouldn't you check it out? So often, like we think that people think coaching is advice, and coaching is my friend used to coach and they weren't certified, or they weren't this, or they weren't that. Just reach out, just see. If you've been thinking about working with Andrea, if you've been thinking about working with someone, don't keep thinking about it. Just reach out, have a conversation, get the help, get the support, and see. And then once you even have that conversation and you know a little bit more about coaching, like if you're sure that those results are something that you want, why wouldn't you invest your time and your resources to get there? Because what you're going to gain is always more than what your investment was, 100%.
It's totally true. Like, why not? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right? Which I think we don't place, like I always say how you manage your time is a reflection of how you manage your mind. But I think it's also true is how we manage our money is also a reflection of how you manage your mind, in the sense of what do you value? Like you are the most important thing in the whole world, not the hot water heater or the fence or the whatever, right? That sometimes we spend money on, right?
Yes, I was on a consult with somebody yesterday and she's like, she really wanted to work together in coaching. And she's like, but I also want to buy another property, like a rental property. So I'm like, oh, so interesting, because part of the coaching she wanted to do was work on growing her business. Like, how many more rental properties will you be able to buy when you have these tools? And even just thinking about that one rental property, right? Maybe you have the money for the rental property today and you'll have it in a couple of months if you do coaching. But why is coaching more important or more transformative for you than this rental property? Because in coaching, we'd be working on so many things. So it's like, sometimes we don't think about that, right? We think about, like,
right.
Of course we need the heater, right? Or of course the rental property, right? Grow your portfolio. But sometimes when we think about all the other results, like we put it on a scale, like where do we want to start? Especially because coaching ends up benefiting so many other areas. So of course you'll buy more rental properties, you'll buy more of whatever it is through that.
Yeah, I think that's the key, is that we have to believe ahead of time, because when you start, you don't know this, but you have to believe ahead of time that it is going to have so many there's so many hidden impacts, or that maybe I'm not saying that right, but it will impact so many areas of your life that you haven't even thought about. And I think that's part of the beauty of it.
Yeah.
So who do you love to coach? Yeah. Who do you love to coach? Tell people you love to coach.
So I love to coach people who are juggling a busy career or a busy business along with home responsibilities. So those are my favorite clients, though I work with a big mix of people at this
You
point, which I
do.
love. Men, women, different ages. But I would say that the typical client is somebody who has that busy business or career that's looking to reach that next level of success, whether it's make some more money, get a promotion, or even just feel better at work, while at the same time manage their home. So sometimes they have children or they have a partner, and they're trying to figure out how to do this all and not feel as overwhelmed. Like, how do I feel better in my skin? How do I feel more confident? How do I exercise and create some sort of time for myself when I'm juggling all these different things? So that's what we work on, like creating that next level of success, being more present at home while also taking care of yourself and feeling good at the same time.
You got really good too at creating time for yourself. And not that you didn't before, but I think you've gotten better at it even too, right?
Yeah.
When you said that.
Totally. As I get busier, right? That's what always happens.
Yes.
We all the same amount of hours in the day, but yeah.
Yeah. And as some of your quote unquote freedoms have changed, right? The look of your free time has changed and what you have to do, but still making yourself a priority. You figured out how to do that. Amazing.
Yeah. And that has lots of benefits, right? Like in our own life.
Yeah.
Like we're better at everything when we take time for ourselves because we're the foundation.
We are better at everything. So, well, this has been super fun. I have so enjoyed our conversation, and I just become energized after I talk to you, to be really honest, all the time. Yeah, so true. All of Binie's, her website and all the ways you can connect with her are going to be in the show notes. So definitely go check that out. I will put a personal plug in for following her on Instagram. She is very good at stories. I'm just going to say,
thank you.
I need to take a course on her in Instagram stories. Yes.
We'll do that. This has been so fun. Thank you so much for having me here.
You are welcome. So time to level up, listeners. I hope that you got something out of this discussion and we all can see ourselves in other people, maybe not the whole person, but in parts of other people. And I think that is what makes being human, part of what makes being human so interesting. So till next time, remember that you too can give your life an upgrade at any point because it's always time to level up. Okay, see you next week. So I hope you enjoyed that. I love talking to her, as you can tell. What were your biggest takeaways? Here's your homework. What challenges have you faced over the last 6 months? How have you handled them? Could you have handled them differently, maybe better, so that you would have not necessarily a different outcome, but have felt differently in working through it and after it was over? That's what coaching is all about. It is about you learning to manage your thinking around business, around relationships, around life. And I think Binie is an excellent example of how she has learned different strategies and tools to manage just about anything. So I would love to chat with you to help you do the same. Feel free to reach out to me, DM me, message me, send me an email, whatever, and let's chat, because you deserve an upgrade. You deserve upgrading your life so that you too can have the feeling of, I got this, no matter whatever comes your way. All right, my friends, until next time, remember, you can always level up. Thanks for listening to the Time to Level Up podcast with me, your host, Andrea Liebross. If you know someone who could benefit from listening to this episode, I encourage you to take a screenshot and share it with them. Okay, now what about you? You've listened to the podcast, and if you now know that you're ready to upgrade your life, upgrade your business, upgrade you, then stop being only a listener and start being a liver, living that upgraded life. Head over to my website and schedule a call. Right there on that call, we'll start changing the way you think and act so that you can have the freedom to achieve the impossible in life and business and have the resources to do it. You deserve an upgrade. Let's do it.